All right, boys and girls, we're going to try my phone and see if my phone works better. It looks better all around me. We'll see how it sounds and how it uploads, okay? I've got it sideways. I don't know. We're going to try some different things. But I have my book upside down. That wasn't going to work. We're going to pick up today with Harry and Hagrid. They had gotten off the train and they're headed to London to get all those things we read about with the list. And Hagrid swears that they can find everything that they need, but we're not quite sure. Harry's like, where am I going to find that? Let's see what happens. Okay. Harry had never even been to London before. Although Hagrid seemed to know where he was going, he was obviously not used to getting there in an ordinary way. He got stuck in the ticket barrier on the underground. That's like the subway, the trains. And he complained loudly that the seats were too small and the trains were too slow. I don't know how muggles manage without magic, he said, as they climbed down a broken down escalator that led up to a bustling road lined with shops. Hagrid was so huge that he parted the crowd easily. All Harry had to do was keep close behind him. They passed bookshops and music stores, hamburger restaurants and cinemas, but nowhere that looked as if it could sell you a magic wand. This was just an ordinary street, full of ordinary people. Could there really be piles of wizard gold buried beneath them? Were there really shops that sold spell books and broomsticks? Might this all not just be some huge joke that the Dursleys had cooked up? If Harry hadn't known that the Dursleys had absolutely no sense of humor, he might have thought so. Yet somehow, even though everything Hagrid had told him so far was unbelievable, Harry couldn't help trusting him. "This is it," said Hagrid, coming to a halt. "The Leaky Cauldron. It's a famous place." It was a tiny, grubby-looking pub. If Hagrid hadn't pointed it out, Harry wouldn't have even noticed that it was there. The people hurrying by didn't even glance at it. Their eyes slid from the big bookshop on one side over to the record shop on the other, as if they couldn't even see the Leaky Cauldron. In fact, Harry had the most peculiar feeling that only he and Hagrid could see it. But before he could mention this, Hagrid had steered him inside. For a famous place, it was dark and shabby. A few old women were sitting in a corner, drinking tiny glasses of sherry. Okay, I need to stop for a second. I want you to think about this. Create a mental picture here. What does the inside of this grubby pub look like? I'm going to start back at the beginning of that, only a little bit there. Okay, mental picture. Make your mental movie. For a famous place, it was very dark and shabby. A few old women were sitting in a corner, drinking tiny glasses of sherry. One of them was smoking a long pipe. A little man in a top hat was talking to the old bartender, who was quite bald and looked like a toothless walnut. The low buzz of chatter stopped when they walked in. Everyone seemed to know Hagrid. They waved and smiled at him, and the bartender reached for a glass, saying, "The usual, Hagrid?" "Can't, Tom. I'm on Hogwarts business," said Hagrid, clapping his great hand on Harry's shoulder and making Harry's knees buckle. "Good Lord," said the bartender, peering at Harry. Can it be?" The Leaky Cauldron had suddenly gone completely still and silent. "Bless my soul," whispered the old bartender. "Harry Potter! What an honor!" He hurried out from behind the bar, rushed toward Harry, and seized his hand, tears in his eyes. "Welcome back, Mr. Potter, welcome back." Harry didn't know what to say. Everyone was looking at him. The old woman with the pipe was puffing on it without realizing it had gone out. Hagrid was beaming. Probably like a very proud. I bet he's very proud. Then there was a great scraping of chairs, and the next moment Harry found himself shaking hands with everybody in the Leaky Cauldron. "Doris Crockford, Mr. Potter, can't believe I'm meeting you at last. So proud, Mr. Potter, I'm just so proud. I've always wanted to shake your hand. I'm all aflutter. Delighted, Mr. Potter, can't tell you. Diggle's the name, Dedalius Diggle." "I've seen you before," said Harry, as I can't say his name, y'all. Daedalus, I don't know, D. Diggle. His hat fell off in his excitement. "You bowed to me once in a shop." "He remembers!" cried Mr. Diggle, looking around at everyone. "Did you hear that? He remembers me. Quite an honor. Harry shook hands again and again. Doris Crockford kept coming back for more. A pale young man made his way forward very nervously. One of his eyes was twitching. Mine does that whenever I get all anxious. Sometimes it's always this one. I'll be like, all right, boys and girls, y'all are killing me today. You're making my eye twitch. Well, this guy's eye was twitching. Usually means something not good's going on. I don't know, though. Let's see. Professor Quirrell, said Hagrid. Harry, Professor Quirrell will be one of your teachers at Hogwarts. Potter? Stammered Professor Quirrell, grasping Harry's hand. Can't to tell you how pleased I am to meet you. What sort of magic do you teach, Professor Quirrell? Defense against the dark arts, muttered Professor Quirrell, as though he'd rather not think about it. Not that you'd need it, Potter. He laughed nervously. You'll be getting your equipment, I suppose? I've got to pick up a new book on vampires myself. He looked terrified at the very thought, but the others wouldn't let Professor Quirrell keep Harry to himself. It took almost 10 minutes to get away from all of them. At last, Hagrid managed to make himself heard over all of the babble. Must get on now. Lots to buy. Come on, Harry. Doris Crockford shook Harry's hand one last time, and Hagrid led them through the bar and out into the small walled courtyard, where there was nothing but a trash can and a few weeds. Hagrid grinned at Harry. Told you, didn't I? Told you were famous. Even Professor Quirrell was trembling to meet you. Mind you, he's usually trembling. Is he always that nervous? Oh, yeah. Poor bloke. Brilliant mind. He was fine when he was studying out of books, but then he took a year off to get some first-hand experience. They say he met vampires in the Black Forest. There was a nasty bit of trouble with a hag. Never been the same since. Scared of the student, scared of his own subject. Now, where's my umbrella? Vampires? Hags? Harry's head was swimming. Hagrid, meanwhile, was counting the bricks on the wall above the trash can. 3 up. 2 across, he muttered. Right, stand back, Harry. He tapped the wall 3 times with the point of his umbrella. The brick he touched quivered. It wriggled. In the middle, a small hole appeared, and then it grew wider and wider and wider. A second later, they were facing an archway large enough, even for Hagrid, an archway onto a cobbled street that twisted and turned out of sight. Welcome, said Hagrid, to Diagon Alley. He grinned at Harry's amazement. They stepped through the archway. Harry looked quickly over his shoulder and saw that the archway shrank instantly back into a solid wall. The sun shone brightly on a stack of cauldrons outside of the nearest shop. Again, y'all, mental movie. Think about this. This is like really brilliant imagery. What does Diagon Alley look like? I want you to get a feel for it. What does it look like? What does it sound like? Maybe what does it smell like? What does it feel like? She's going to use her sensory images to help you understand that. So while I'm reading to you, think about all the sensory images that she gives you. So the first thing is something that Harry sees. The sun shone brightly on a stack of cauldrons outside the nearest shop. Cauldrons, all sizes, copper, brass, pewter, silver, self-stirring, collapsible, said a sign hanging over them. Yeah, you'll be needing one of those, said Hagrid. Well, we got to get your money first. Harry wished he had about 8 more eyes. He turned his head in every direction as they walked up the street, trying to look at everything at once. The shops, the things outside them, the people that were doing their shopping. A plump woman outside of an apothecary was shaking her head as they passed, saying, "Dragon liver, 17 sickles an ounce. They're mad." A low hooting came from the dark shop with a sign saying, Ilops Owl Emporium, Tawny Screech Barn, Brown and Snowy. See, you could hear the hooting. Several boys of about Harry's ages had their nose pressed up against a window with broomsticks in it. "Look," Harry heard one of them say, "the new Nimbus 2000, fastest ever." There were shops selling robes, shops selling telescopes, and strange silver instruments that Harry had never seen before. Windows stacked with barrels of bat spleens and eel's eyes. tottering piles of spell books, quills, rolls of parchment, potion bottles, globes of the moon. Gringotts, said Hagrid. They had reached a snowy white building that towered over the other little shops. Standing beside its burnished bronze doors, wearing a uniform of scarlet and gold, was... Yeah, that's a goblin, said Hagrid quietly as they walked up the white stone steps toward them. The goblin was about a head shorter than Harry. He had a swarthy, clever face, a pointed beard, and Harry noticed very long fingers and feet. He bowed as they walked inside. Now they were facing a second pair of doors, silver this time, with words engraved upon them. Enter, stranger, but take heed of what awaits the sin of greed. For those who take but do not earn must pay most dearly in their turn. So if you seek beneath our floors a treasure that was never yours, thief, you have been warned. Beware of finding more than treasure there. Yeah, like I said, you'd be mad to rob it, said Hagrid. Okay. I think that's where I'm going to stop because I need to see if this is going to work, and I don't want to keep going and then have to scrap it all and do it again. So I might post both of these videos on the first day that we're back from spring break. We're on page 73. They're about to enter the bank into this marvelous place with all these sights and smells. I can picture it in my brain, like all these old-fashioned looking shops with the sunlight glinting, like sparkling and shining on all of those cauldrons. It's like a big bowl, you know, that you can put stuff in. You see them at, I have one that I put candy in it on Halloween. You know, it's a big black, looks like a big pot, like a witch's cauldron. You'd stir. I could hear the owls, and I know that you can smell animals like that too, so I'm sure you could smell it. I can see the boys, little boys with their nose pressed up against glass, staring and talking about, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. I want a Nimbus 2000. They're so fast. But first years can't have them because they're too little, so, All right, we're going to see what the inside of Gringotts looks like tomorrow. As my dog howls. He wanted to sit in my lap while I read, and I wouldn't let him, so he's not happy with me. He's like a mini wolf. Bye, y'all.